Breaking right now. The charity boss who has accused Prince Harry of racism, of discrimination, and of being part of a massive cover-up has now been forced off social media, bullied off social media because of the biggest gang of trolls in the history of the internet, the Sussex Squad, who, on the behalf of Meghan Markle, are now quite ironically using racist terms to denounce Dr. Chandauka. Now, she's been branded a fraud, jumping on a bandwagon of hate. There are dig after dig after dig being thrown at her, and a Centre Bali spokesperson has said Dr. Chandauka deleted her Twitter account due to the proliferation of online bullying. Meanwhile, I think it's Prince Harry who should be worried because the abusive email that he sent to Dr. Chandauka when she wouldn't put up with Meghan Markle's bullying looks like it's about to be released. Now, this is all deeply, deeply uncomfortable, but in some ways I'm glad it has happened because I have been subjected to the type of destruction that the Sussex Squad, through a whole medium and network of paid bots, of coordinated campaigns to shut down enemies. I have been subjected to that. I know what it's like. So has Victoria Arbiter, the daughter of the famous Royal Press Secretary Dickie Arbiter, who posted on X, if Harry and Meghan's cyberbullying initiatives are ever to carry any weight, they'll have to denounce all the accounts posting hate in their name. Granted, in a world of free speech, they can't control what people write, but they've publicly thanked their fans on numerous occasions, which is tantamount to permission to post on. And I'm sorry, I have given Prince Harry and Meghan Markle well over a year to disassociate with the Sussex Squad, and they refuse. Meanwhile, more footage has emerged of Meghan acting like a bully on stage with Dr. Sophie Chandauka. Watch. You can see there, Meghan wants absolutely nothing to do with this woman. Mean girl behavior, just like we saw yesterday.
All right, folks, we've got another scandal brewing, and this one is as bad as it gets. Meghan Markle is facing major backlash for allegedly treating Dr. Sophie Chandauka, the black female chair of Chandauka, as if she didn't exist. And it's all caught on camera. Let's be clear. Chandauka is one of Prince Harry's most personal charity projects. This is something he's been passionate about for years. But now, instead of being in the headlines for helping people, Chandauka is making news because of Meghan Markle's alleged bullying. You can literally see it happening. Meghan completely avoiding Dr. Chandauka, refusing to engage with her and acting like she wasn't even there. And now we're hearing why. Meghan was supposedly angry that Dr. Chandauka was wearing the same color dress as her. You heard that right, a dress. That's what allegedly triggered Meghan's latest mean girl moment. Seriously? Meghan built her entire public persona on being a champion for diversity, inclusion, and female empowerment. But when the cameras aren't rolling, she's allegedly shutting down successful black women for wearing a similar dress? The hypocrisy is off the charts.
Let me bring in my superstar panel, Bernie Spoffforth and Charlie Downs, on this now. Look, in some ways, there's quite an irony about the fact, Bernie, that it is a powerful black woman, a very accomplished individual, one who I don't agree with a lot on politically, but actually I am so proud of for finally standing up publicly against the Sussex Squad when so many people have just allowed themselves to be destroyed. And how on earth can anyone take Prince Harry and Meghan Markle seriously when they talk about the scourge of trolls, when they talk about the need to regulate the internet, when actually they have a professionalized gang of internet trolls trying to bring down anyone who decides to take them on for appalling behavior, for bullying behavior, for racist behavior?
I know I shouldn't find this funny, but I actually do. Sorry.
Because it's just so beautiful, isn't it?
Because
so ironic.
Because it's just the woke eating the even woker. Because yes, right. The troll farms that go after anybody are despicable, and we've seen that a huge amount. Anybody who disagrees with anything that the left say on any of the progressive narrative are completely destroyed. But, and I know you're not going to like this, Dan, but I think Harry might have a point. And his point is that this charity he set up for in his mother's name, was to look after the orphans of AIDS victims and children who have AIDS, right? That was the original concept. And I know it's spread out slightly, but that was the concept. And we saw him playing football with kids where he was at his happiest before he met Sparkle and his life went woke. But that was what he wanted to do, a traditional type of charity. What's happened in the last 2 years is that the woman they've brought in is a massive activist, and far less money has been spent on the children, and a huge amount of money has been spent on costs and activism, including climate change. So the money that's coming in, I think last year they pulled in, their revenue was 3.4 million, including £1 million from Harry's fictional spare. They pulled in 3.4 million, but they spent 3.7 million and have accomplished nothing with the children, but they did spend £175,000 on a party funded by themselves, inviting lots of American Democrats. I mean, if you're going to, and that's the problem with modern day charities, and I think that's the problem that perhaps Harry had with how the charity was running, was that it wasn't doing things on the ground. It had become an activist organization, and that was his discussion with her. She, of course, is hugely woke and attacked it in a way that obviously they would. And then the Sussex Squad, which is a vile operation of trolls, I know you've experienced it, have all come in to attack her. It's just they will always eat themselves.
But the thing is,
main crux of this.
But that isn't why. I mean, I completely agree, by the way, with your criticism of what these charity organizations have become. They are not charities. They are activists. I completely agree.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, though, Charlie, is that isn't actually why Prince Harry had the problem. Because that's what all of his charities do. You know, hilariously, this is the guy who travels around in private jets, but then has a charity business operation called Travelist, which is all about stopping us mere mortals using air transportation.
True.
So the guy is just like
Also
a massive
true.
hypocrite.
And if you thought that was bad, it gets worse. Because after Dr. Chandauka refused to defend Meghan publicly, she was attacked by Meghan and Harry's hardcore fan base, the Sussex Squad. Think about this for a second. Meghan and Harry constantly preach about mental health, online bullying, and kindness. But when it's their own supporters attacking someone, they stay completely silent. This is the exact same playbook we've seen before. Anyone who doesn't blindly support Meghan gets destroyed. Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter what you've done. If you don't worship the Sussex brand, you're the enemy. And let's be real. If this were the royal family, Meghan and Harry would be all over the news playing the victim. But when their own squad is doing the bullying, crickets.
What actually this came down to is that there was a powerful woman of colour who wasn't prepared to march to the beat of Meghan Markle's drum, who wasn't prepared to be bullied by Meghan Markle, who wasn't prepared to allow Meghan Markle to humiliate her on this stage during... It was mortifying. You know, the Centre Bali charity, look, she just refuses to allow Dr. Sophie to stand next to Harry. Harry's friends are now trying to say, oh, Dr. Sophie must be jealous of Meghan. No. It's the other way around. Because remember, Dr. Sophie Chandauka has never wanted to be a public figure. She chose not to publicly defend Meghan Markle. So I totally agree with the points that Bernie is making about the charity, Charlie, but actually that's not why this fallout has happened.
I find it just mind-blowing that the Sussexes, specifically Meghan Markle, has anything approaching a fan base. I just don't understand how people
it's very small,
become
Charlie.
so invested in these
very
people.
Small these days.
Well, indeed, and probably also astroturfed as well. But it just, you know, the idea that somebody could get excited about and go to bat for somebody like Markle just blows my mind. I think that Markle is at once I don't like talking about her because I think that attention is exactly what she wants. But on the other hand, I found her a fascinating object of study because she is one of these figures that comes around every now and then who embodies some certain elements of the zeitgeist that we're living in, because she is at once this kind of, glitzy Hollywood, bourgeois actress, is also this incredibly narcissistic, vindictive, nasty, by all accounts, person who steps over people, who destroys people, who attacks people, who get in her way. And she is also, alongside those two things, this kind of moralizing, progressive, woke, politically minded person. And it's this clash of three things that makes Markle such a fascinating figure to me. But this bust up that's happened here, I mean, it seems like these things are just accidents waiting to happen if you go into business with the Sussexes, and so maybe it's not surprising. And it will be interesting to see whether this leaked email sheds any more light on what's actually happened here. But on the broader point of the what I would call the charity industrial complex,
Yes.
I think this is another area of economics and politics that nobody's talking about. Nobody is owning this issue, and I think part of that is because something the left do so well is they capture language and ideas that sound really nice, that sound really cuddly, whether that's Black Lives Matter or anti-fascism or whatever else, pride, for example. These are all things that sound kind of good on the surface of them, but actually conceal they conceal ulterior motives, which are always the destruction of beauty and the destruction of morality and the destruction of standards and identity.
And this is the big issue that Prince Harry has, though, right? Because we've even seen his allies this week, like Hindi Andrews, who is the hard left race baiter intellectual, who appeared on their Netflix series. And he's now turned on Harry, saying, oh, no, of course this guy, he's from the British royal family. Of course he's all about a white colonial narrative. And this is what's fascinating. I want to show you, by the way, two very different reactions from both sides of the political spectrum, and I think that equally hilarious.
Now, here's where things get really interesting, because sources say that Prince Harry himself sent an angry email to Dr. Chandauka, demanding she play along with Meghan's version of events. And guess what? That email is about to be released. If this email is as bad as insiders are claiming, this could be one of the biggest blows to Harry's reputation yet. Because think about it. This is a man who has spent the last few years suing the British press, claiming he wants to be treated fairly. But behind the scenes, he's allegedly pressuring a charity boss to cover for Meghan's behavior. I mean, the irony here is insane.
I just love that. But then on the other hand, right, you have Dr. Scholler, who I actually describe as the biggest race baiter in Britain, now put in the hilarious position where, because of her sort of almost, I would argue, unquestioning support of Harry and Meghan, is now having to find a way to turn on Dr. Sophie Chandauka, the type of black woman on the left who she would usually support.
Offended.
Now, this entire framing is a tad intellectually disingenuous to me. Because how is a public statement of Prince Harry and Princess an example of bullying and harassment on a scale when you, Sophie, put this out in the public domain first? Yeah, your report against the Board of Trustees at the Charity Commission is in the public domain. Your lawsuit against the Board of Trustees at the High Court is in the public domain. How else are Prince Harry and Princess meant to respond to your public actions? Except by responding with a public statement. Can you see that? I think you may have other examples, so dig deep, because this right here isn't it. Fascinating the way Sophie uses words like my country director, my executive director. Because I'm thinking, girl, you're the chair. We all know the role of a chair, do you? Because you're not the CEO who runs the daily operations of the charity. The CEO would have country directors, executive directors, yada yada. But so why are you talking like you're the CEO? And why are you talking like you own the place? The language smacks of a hostile takeover, in my humble opinion.
Bernie, I find this so beautiful, right? In a very similar way that you were before, because how hilarious that we have the ultimate class warrior, Dr. Scholler, now backing the prince, backing the privileged prince who has had every advantage of the colonialism that she claims to despise. It's just wonderful.
I just don't even know. I don't even know where to start because actually she is completely right. But that means she's supporting the prince and she hates the prince because of all his colonial past. She must be in a terrible situation. Daniel, you should definitely send her some wine.
Harry claims to be all about honesty and fairness, but he's allegedly out here trying to silence a black woman who simply refused to back up Meghan's victim narrative. Is this what progressive looks like? So here's the big question. Will Meghan and Harry ever take responsibility for this mess? Because so far, they have refused to condemn the harassment that their supporters are unleashing on Dr. Chandauka. Let's call it what it is. They only care about bullying when it affects them. If Meghan is criticized, it's racism, misogyny, and victimhood. But when it's someone else, especially someone who won't fall in line, suddenly they have nothing to say. Where's that same energy now? Where's the fighting for justice and condemning abuse? Or does that only apply when Meghan is the victim? Because Dr. Chandauka didn't get a Netflix deal, she got death threats.
Yes, she's not coping, is she, Charlie?
No.
Although neither was Julia Hartley-Brewer. But I totally agree with what Julia says. I mean, this is just an argument that most people look at
No one cares.
and think, what the hell? Well, they just think,
No one
what
cares.
the hell? And they also think, I think, Charlie, that this just represents why Prince Harry has allowed a woman to ruin his entire legacy.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing pretty well if you're upsetting and annoying Julia Hartley-Brewer and Dr. Scholler. I mean, that's actually quite an achievement, maybe commendable. But I'm just waiting for the Prince Harry redemption arc. I'm waiting for the inevitable separation, the inevitable divorce, and then the inevitable round of, media and maybe books from Harry where he said, I was in this horrible relationship. Here's the tell-all story and all the rest of it. And hey, maybe he comes out of it looking quite good. I don't know. I mean, maybe I find that hard to believe because he's made a bit of a tit of himself over the last 5 to 10 years, but either way, it's all good fun, isn't it? This stuff it takes our minds off the more the more awful things that are happening in this country and elsewhere. But I do think, just to tie the previous story and this one together, as a political point, you listening to Dr. Scholler and looking at Meghan Markle and those sorts of figures who really do represent, they're like the embodiment of woke politics, right? Browbeating, bitchy, unpleasant, rude, and vindictive, completely without a kind of desire to make the world a better place. I would say you compare that to somebody like Gary Stevenson, and again, I find Gary Stevenson to be a far more compelling sell, and that's why I think he's popular. Yeah. But either way, I'm glad to see the back of woke.
I think anyone is more appealing, if I'm honest, than the toxic combination of Dr. Scholler and Meghan Markle. But yes, they can just keep eating themselves. I'm going to enjoy it, but I will just say once more, because I want to give them a chance, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, if you do not believe in internet trolling, surely this is the moment to release a statement distancing yourself and disassociating yourself from the Sussex Squad, who are now not only trolling in your name, but spreading racist abuse in your name. I thought that would be everything that you're against.
So what happens next? Will Meghan and Harry finally be forced to acknowledge the damage their supporters are doing? Or will they continue to play the victim while others take the fall? At this point, people are starting to wake up. The carefully crafted PR image is falling apart, and scandals like this only speed up the downfall. The question is, how much longer can they keep this up? Because at the end of the day, the public sees through hypocrisy. You can't preach about kindness while standing by as your fanbase harasses a charity boss off social media. That's not leadership, that's cowardice. Alright folks, that's it for today's breakdown. If you found this deep dive eye-opening, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. And drop a comment. Do you think Meghan and Harry will finally take responsibility, or will they just ignore this scandal like they always do? Let's talk about it.